Did you know that 90% of all phishing attacks are done over the phone? That's right, not email, over the phone. But most people don't know how to protect themselves against voice phishing attacks. So today we're going to talk about one of the most common ones called fake bank calls and how to defend yourself against them. It's me. Welcome to my channel. Now this one is very interesting because it involves attackers actually calling you pretending to be your bank or credit card company or some other trusted institution. And they say they need to verify some information with you, or they need to send you an urgent notification about something going on with your account. So they call you up. They may even spoof the caller ID to make it look like it's coming from your bank, and then they start asking you for information. They might ask you for your social security number, your mother's maiden name, your banking login credentials, your credit card numbers. The possibilities are really endless. So let's take a look at an example of this attack so we can see how it works. Okay, so in this example, we have a victim who has just received a suspicious phone call from somebody claiming to be Chase Bank. And the victim answered the call, and the attacker immediately started talking about some kind of suspicious activity on his credit card. He says he noticed a charge for $600 from Walgreens. He asked if I made this purchase, and when I said no, he said he was going to cancel my card and issue a new one. He told me to go to Walgreens to cancel the transaction there. Then he asked me for my phone number and my email address so they could contact me later. He gave me a reference number and told me to keep it handy when I spoke to the representative at Walgreens. When I got to Walgreens, the representative couldn't cancel the transaction without a phone number or email address. So I went back to the phone and called the number again. It went straight to voicemail, so I left a message with my number and email address. The next day I got a call from somebody else at Chase. She asked for the reference number and told me she was issuing a new card. I asked why they needed my email address and phone number, and she said it was standard procedure. She also said that they needed to verify my identity before issuing a new card. So she asked for my date of birth and social security number. After verifying my identity, she gave me a new card number, an expiration date, and told me to go back to Walgreens to repurchase the items. I asked her why I had to go through all this trouble, and she said it was for my own security. I didn't buy anything at Walgreens that day, and my old card was never canceled. Alright, so let's break down what happened here and how this attack works. First off, the attacker knew the victim's name and had information about his credit card and his accounts at the bank. This is probably because the attacker stole the victim's personal information in a data breach somewhere. These databases of stolen personal information are often sold on the dark web, and attackers will use that information to launch these types of attacks. So the attacker calls the victim and tries to get the victim on the phone. If they get the victim on the phone, they start telling them that there's been suspicious activity on their account. They might tell them that someone is trying to log into their account from a foreign country, or they might tell them that someone is trying to transfer money out of their account. Whatever the case may be, they try to create a sense of urgency so that the victim will act quickly and not think clearly. In this case, the attacker tells the victim about the charge at Walgreens and asks him if he made that purchase. Of course, the victim says no because he didn't make that purchase. And the attacker says, oh no, we need to cancel your card immediately to prevent any further charges. So the victim agrees to that. Now, typically, the attacker won't actually cancel the victim's card because that would cut off their access to the funds in the account. Instead, they'll just say they have canceled the card, and then they'll try to get the victim to go to an ATM and withdraw all the money out of their account. Or they might try to get the victim to give them remote access to their computer so they can transfer the money directly from the bank account to the attacker's account. Of course, the victim doesn't want to lose all their money, so they try to find a way to stop the transaction. In this case, the victim goes to Walgreens because the charge was for Walgreens, and they try to get them to reverse the charge. Of course, the people at Walgreens don't want to reverse the charge because it's not their fault, and it's not their decision to make. So they tell the victim to call the bank and sort it out there. At this point, the victim calls the bank back and talks to another person at the bank. This time it's a woman, and she seems very helpful. She says she's going to cancel the transaction and issue a new card. But of course, she's just saying that. She's really just trying to get more information out of the victim. So she asks for the victim's date of birth and social security number to verify his identity. Of course, the victim gives her that information because he trusts that she's from the bank and she needs it to cancel the transaction. Once she has that information, she tells the victim that they've issued him a new card with a new card number and expiration date, and he should go back to Walgreens and try to buy the items again. Of course, the victim doesn't want to buy anything at this point, but he feels like he has no other choice because the bank has told him that this is the only way to cancel the transaction. So he goes back to Walgreens and tries to buy the items again. Of course, the people at Walgreens are confused at this point because they don't know what's going on, but they ring up the items and the victim pays for them with the new card. But of course, the victim never received the items because the whole thing was a scam. The attacker never actually canceled the original transaction, and now the victim has lost all their money. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the red flags here. First of all, the bank would never call the victim unless the victim had initiated the contact with the bank. Banks are very careful about who they share information about accounts with, and they will never ask for sensitive information over the phone. Banks also don't use third parties to handle customer service. So if the victim had called the bank and then the bank transferred them to another company to handle the issue, that would have been a red flag. The bank would never tell the victim to go to a retail store to resolve an issue. And they would certainly never tell the victim to buy items with their card if there was a problem with it. The bank would also never ask for the victim's social security number or other sensitive information. If the victim had noticed any of these red flags, they might have been able to stop the scam. But in this case, they didn't, and they ended up losing all their money. Okay, so how do you defend yourself against fake bank calls? First off, never give out your personal information to anybody who calls you unless you initiated the contact with them. Don't trust caller ID either, because it's easy to spoof. If you get a call from somebody claiming to be from your bank and you didn't initiate the contact with them, just hang up and call the bank back using a phone number that you know is correct. Don't use the number that the person gave you because it could be spoofed. Once you get through to the bank, verify the caller's identity by asking them questions that only the bank would know the answer to. For example, you could ask them what your account number is or your credit card number. If they don't know the answer to those questions, then they're not from the bank and you should hang up immediately. Be wary of phone calls that come in from unknown numbers. If you get a call from a number that you don't recognize, don't answer it. Even if you do answer it and the person on the other end knows some information about you, like your name or address, don't give out any more information to them. Just hang up and call the relevant institution back using a phone number that you know is correct. Don't press any buttons on your phone when prompted to do so by a recorded message. This is especially important if the call is coming from a company that you do business with, such as your bank or credit card company. If you press any buttons, you may be connecting with a scammer. Instead, hang up and call the company back using a phone number that you know is correct. Be wary of anyone who pressures you to act quickly. Scammers often try to create a sense of urgency in order to get you to act quickly and not think clearly. If someone is pressuring you to do something that you're not comfortable with, just hang up and call the relevant institution back using a phone number that you know is correct. Well, there you have it. That's how fake bank calls work and how to defend yourself against them. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more videos about online security. As always, stay safe online.